UK boxing blogger coming right back at you. Right before I play an exclusive interview that I had earlier on this evening with Joe Gallagher, I just want to explain a little bit what this video is about. We talk about his whole stable of fighters, including the Macklin fight coming up in Ireland. He just had his last sparring session today. We also get to the questions that the fans all want to know. Does Quigg want to fight RIGONDEUX? Did Quigg handshake on a deal to fight Santa Cruz in America? Does Quigg want all three of them fights? Are they ready to fight straight away? Can Callum Smith go in there and fight at the elite level already? Can he beat Alpha Abraham? Is a rematch going to happen with Paul Smith? And how Stephen Smith, Liam Smith and Anthony Crolla are getting on. So I hope you enjoy and stick through the whole interview. UK Boxing Blogger News coming right back at you. Today I've got an online exclusive interview with Joe Gallagher, one of the best trainers in the UK, probably got one of the best stables around the world today. How are we today, Joe?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Just got in from another busy day at the gym, but about to watch ringside, and that's it, mate.
Yeah, me too. Got it on the record. But is Macklin in the middle of sparring at the moment?
Yeah, he's got one more spar left. He's been sparring really well. He sparred again with Craig McEwen today. Obviously, the kid was fighting Jorge Sebastian Hayland. He's a very good fighter, good southpaw. He's in a really good form at the moment as well, coming his last 3 wins, all by stoppage. And it's a fight I think they were after as well. And the most we see Matthew Macklin as a kid that's on the slide, and after the loss of Golovkin is somebody that they can beat. But I'm really pleased with Matthew's work this week. It's just like watching the old Matthew Macklin when I had him a few years ago when he beat Elcock Asakainen. And I'm really pleased with his work now, and really looking forward now to the fight a week on Saturday.
Right, yeah, see, because he wasn't at his most sharpest last time, so is he looking really sharp in the gym then?
Yeah, it is. Well, the thing is obviously it's well documented after the Felix term. Obviously, Matthew wanted me to go to New York, but I couldn't with the amount of fighters that I have. So he went with Buddy McGirt. Then he came back, trained with me for a month, and wanted me to go to Marbella the last month of it, and I said I couldn't do. So then obviously he went with he employed Jamie Moore. So that was it. So I've only had him back a short while for that last fight. And the other thing as well, when you've been fighting in HBO against Sergio Martinez and Golovkin, they're huge fights. Then your next fight is a 6 or an 8 rounder at 6 o'clock in the evening with no one in the arena. I can understand them not getting very hard to get up for, but there'll be no excuses a week on Saturday.
Right, so are you and Matthew gonna? I know Jamie had a well-publicised incident over in Spain, but are you and Macklin gonna stay together now, or is it just short term?
Well, listen, Matthew Macklin's his own man, isn't he? So that's it. But I've been employed to do work with him for his last fight and this fight, and fingers crossed it all goes well a week on Saturday, and see where we go from there. But Matthew's very happy in training today. He's got a bounce in his step, and his desire is still burning as bright as it was when he turned pro when he was 17, 18.
Oh, brilliant. It'd be good to see Macklin back to his best, maybe like this Felix Sturm night. That'd be brilliant to see.
Yeah, well, listen, that's 4 or 5 years ago. He won't be able to do that because of the experience he's had from then till now. But what we can do is get back to Matthew doing what he does best, and that's what we intend to do. I don't think he can ever be the best, but that he's more experienced now, and it's knowing when to punch and when not to punch. And like I say, he's been with other world-class trainers like Buddy McGirt and that, and like I say, he's picked up a lot in them few years, and it's just about making sure he produces on the night now and gets a shot at that world title for a 4th time.
Brilliant. Well, that'd be something we'd love to see. And you got another fighter on the card, Anthony Crolla.
Yeah, $1 Million Crolla. He's in his first 6 rounder, I think, in 4 years. The only thing, he's been in title fights since 2011, and it makes a welcome change that the kid has a takeover job, and that's all it is. Before he was unfortunate last time out with a clash of heads with Diaz. But it's just a biding time fight. Obviously, there's Crawford v Beltran at the end of the month, and Anthony's, I think, it's number 3 in the WBO. So we're looking with great interest to see what happens with that fight, and this is just keeping the tools sharp and see what happens with that fight.
Right, yeah, see, that's the thing with, obviously, with Crolla, obviously you're quite hands-on with the matchmaking of your fighters, is that correct?
I'm not saying I'm hands-on. I get an awful lot of stick for it, but it's between myself, the promoter, Matchroom's matchmaker, and the fighter themselves as well. So that's it, and I think the fight for Crolla now, obviously if Crawford beats Beltran, or Beltran beats Crawford, I think the Beltran fight's a fight would take. If Crawford wins and vacates, then I think there's 3 fights in one, Diaz and Crolla or Moses. It'll be one of them two of them 3 anyway. That the most of a big fight for the vacant belt. So we'll just have to sit back, wait and see where we are. He's in a good position at the moment, Anthony Crolla.
Of course, yeah, because he's been in the form of his life, had some great wins, you know, and after the Diaz fight last time round, well, it's a nice tick-over fight, but it'd be lovely to see him in a world title fight in the next year. So that's definitely the plan, yeah?
No, definitely the plan. Obviously, Anthony, all fighters, like Matthew Macklin just mentioned about, they all want to test themselves against the best, and when they get that opportunity, it's up to them to bring the best out of them. And we've just seen that with Paul Smith, with Arthur Abraham, and all the fighters want to know when they come to the end of the career, did they ever test themselves against the best in the world? And Macklin and Paul Smith, whatever happens from now on in, I've been given the opportunity, and I think that's all what Anthony wants, is the opportunity for himself to know how far I off and or was a world class. So I think that's what he wants, that opportunity to test himself against the best of the world, and that's what I want to see my fighters have, that hunger to do that.
See, how do you rate his chances against Mickey Bay?
That's another one, Mickey Bay. Although I didn't think he won the fight, I thought Vasquez won the fight, but listen, Mickey Bay, I think there's a few people wanting a shot at him. I think he's looked after by Al Heyman, so listen, that's another thing. But we're in the WBO rankings, and we're in a good position there, and we're just waiting to see what happens there. We've not really paid much attention to Mickey Bay.
Cool. Right, so I'll just move on to the Smith brothers. You know, Callum Smith. How good do you rate him? Obviously, I know this is going to be an easy question for you, but do you think?
No, listen, he's a very good prospect, and that's what it is, a very good prospect with huge potential. Now it's up to him to fulfil that potential. He's got great prospects, he's got great assets. It's knowing when the right time to make the move, and I think this fight coming up now, November the 22nd in Liverpool, such a very dangerous fight for Callum Smith. We've been watching Schlocker an awful lot. He's a very game fighter. He gave a great account of himself against Arthur Abraham in the summer. I was over there ringside watching it. He's very well drilled in the shots that he has to throw. He's got quick hands, head and body, and he comes to fight. And I think watching it Schlocker over the last couple of days, I'm looking like, are we bitten off more than we can chew here a little bit, because it is really a dangerous fight. You've got to remember, Callum Smith's only had 14 fights. He's not been a pro 2 years yet, and we're going in against somebody that's only lost twice, and they were to world champions Beaker and Arthur Abraham, and this is a huge acid test fight for Callum Smith, and it's one that's obviously got the butterflies going and me biting my nails with as well. But Callum's doing what Callum does well. He's sparring well, he's training well, and so laid back, nothing seems to bother him, and he's taking it in his stride. So we'll know more about Callum Smith come November the 22nd when he fights Schlocker, and he may answer a lot of questions that people are asking about him at the moment on the night.
Okay, because I was going to put you in a bit of a predicament here and ask you, do you think, because a lot of people I speak to and a lot of fans see that Callum Smith, they would put Callum Smith to beat Arthur Abraham already. Do you see that? Or is that being too optimistic?
Listen, Arthur Abraham is only the very best have beat him, haven't they? And that's the thing, and that's what I said back at the beginning. Listen, he's a great prospect. He's doing everything right at the moment. He's got huge potential. He fulfills that potential. He's still green and a bit wet behind the ears with pro boxing. People like Arthur Abraham are well experienced, fought at world title level for numerous years, and I think that there's an experience-wise that Callum hasn't got that most probably maybe might be able to beat Callum with at the moment. But with these couple of fights coming out, Schlocker and one or two others that we've got lined up next year, Callum, I think 12 months from now, will be ready to rock and roll.
Right, okay, so I've got a fan question here from Taiwan Snow. He wants to know, who Does Callum Smith want to fight George Groves or James DeGale?
George Groves. The reason being George Groves is WBC. He's just won an eliminator. Callum Smith now is in an eliminator. George Groves beats Darrell. It's the next fight for us. Callum Smith v George Groves, and I hope George Groves goes and wins the world title, beats Darrell, and we can fight him in the summer next year.
Wow, that would be something to see. Okay, so we move on to another Smith brother, Stephen Smith.
Yeah.
What's happened? What's the latest there? What is WBC title shot? When's that coming?
Well, that's it. It's all gone quiet with Miura at the moment. Stephen Smith, obviously the silver champion, he was due to a fight in Germany, but had a problem with kidney stones, so he's off the Liverpool bill as well. And it's just a case of, a bit like Kell Brook, he's just biding his time, waiting for them to sort themselves out. And obviously we want the shot at Miura, the world champion, and we'd even willing to travel over there to fight him. But like you said, we'll just have to sit and wait and see. And I think the plan is to get Stephen out in the new year early and get that world title fight by at least Easter time next year.
Of course, yeah, that's a long overdue, that one. So we move on to the older brother, Paul. The bitter disappointment of Germany the other week. Looking back at it now all the dust has settled, did you feel you won that fight? Honestly.
Well, on the night when I was asked interviewed, I thought to myself, I climbed into the ring thinking, Joe, what? We might nick this by one or it's a draw. And I haven't changed much from that. I felt there's a round either side. And we were in Germany. And when the first score come out, I just thought, well, we never won it that wide. And I thought we were never going to win it. So I still stick to how I called it on the night. It was a round either side. And I think that what upset everybody was Paul's work ethic and the success that he had in the fight wasn't reflected in the scorecards. And by that, hopefully, it might give Paul another opportunity at a world title against any of the other champions, whether it be a Darrell and Andre Ward. You just never know.
Of course, yeah. Do you know what I think? I thought personally myself, and I know a lot of people did think that Paul did enough, even being at Germany. If he'd have stayed to the body attacks a little bit more. He seemed to be caught.
That was the game plan, but when you've got an experienced fighter like Arthur Abraham, just when you're about to move or throw the shots, he was very cute in what he already knew when to move and offset you and take you out of position, and that's experience. But I think if we ever got the opportunity again now, I think the bit of the fear factor's gone now. Paul knows what he's been in with, and he came out of there full of confidence, and I think he'd be willing to go in there and give another good account of himself again. And I think Arthur Abraham, if he says beforehand, he said he was in great shape, trained really hard, so there's no excuses for him. But I think he thinks to himself, right, next time I'll absolutely give it you big time. So I just think if the fight ever happens again, you'll have both people try to prove a point again, which will make it to another great fight. Yeah.
So do you know anything about the possibility of Eddie Hearn getting it over to England, or do you not really know?
Well, listen, that's God knows. I don't know what's happening at the moment. I know Stieglitz and Sturm are fighting this weekend, and I know that's a fight there. Sturm Abraham's a big fight over there in Germany, so just have to sit and wait. But a bit like when Matthew Macklin and Martin Murray have lost to Felix Sturm, it opened the doors up for him to fight other champions like Sergio Martinez and that. And I think Paul's performance at Arthur Abraham, you might get someone like a Darrell or an Andre Ward looking across and going, Joe, we'll take him for a defence. So you never know. We'll just have to watch this space.
Of course. Well, Liam Smith, what's happening with Liam? Because obviously, he seems from what I see, he's not. Is he a matchroom fighter? He's not a matchroom fighter anymore, is he?
No,
he's a boxing nation.
Yeah.
Yeah. What happened there then? How comes I would have thought all the Smith brothers would have all stayed together?
No, I think that for whatever reasons, contractually, Stephen and Paul decided to move on or whatever, but for Liam, he was happy with where he was, and he's still a front warrant fighter. He's just boxed recently now, and a tick over. It's his first foreign opponent that he's boxed, and he picked up an intercontinental title, and he's ranked highly in 3 governing bodies, in the top 10 in 3 of the governing bodies, and he'll be looking to make a big push now and try and get a Molina or a K9 Bundridge fight next year. And he's one of, I'd say Liam Smith is, I'd say, one of possibly 3 of the most underrated fighters in British boxing at the moment. It doesn't seem to get much of a highlight and everything else, but I call him LB4. He's just like a Mexican fighter, the way that he goes through the gears. He's got world-class timing, and potentially he could be the best of the Smith brothers.
Yeah, see, I totally agree with you there. You know, it would be nice to get him a world title shot. He flies under the radar a little bit. It would be nice to get him a world title shot next year. So, how do you think if he had to fight Andrade, he'd get on? How well if he had to do that stylistically? What kind of fight do you reckon that would be for him?
Well, I'd rather Andre clear off. I'd rather clear off. Listen, he's a very good fighter. But listen, there's Jack Colkai there for the European title, and I think that's the type of fight. Or Molina, who just lost. I think they're the type of fights now we're looking to push on. He did some really good sparring with Rabchenko a couple of weeks ago before his fight, and he held his own. And he knows himself with the sparring that he's had out in America. Every time we've been out there in LA with quality fighters, and listen, with Rabchenko, his confidence is full high now. He just needs a fair factor fight to bring the best of Liam Smith out.
Right, well, hopefully he gets that fight next year. Right, we're going to move on to Scott Quigg. You know, and this is I've got a couple of fan questions on this one as well. You know, first of all, he's got a title defence to take care of. How do you see that? Do you see that being a routine victory for him against Otke?
Well, see, I think people who are expecting that are quite ignorant in the fact that everyone's saying, oh, he's not fought out of his country. Well, neither did Terence Crawford, and neither did Injin Chi until they come over. And when you're the challenger, you have to travel. The kid's ranked number 8 in Box Rec, and it's like, what more can you do about that? That's an independent ratings committee. They've got him ranked at number 8 in Box Rec. He's a good fighter. We're going in blind against him. All we've got is 1 round of him sparring and 1 round of him in a fight. So we're going in literally blind. Like I was saying to Scott Quigg today, this is what it was like for Jim Watt and people like that and Buchanan in the era. They never know nothing about them until they got in the ring on the night. I said, we're very fortunate this day and age with YouTube and everything else, but literally we're going in blind, but they're coming in fully prepared. There's loads of stuff on YouTube about Scott Quigg, so they've got the upper hand in that. He can whack, and it's got to be a really tough fight. And that part of the world in the lower weight divisions, they rule. So he'll be well prepared. He'll be well with sparring partners and everything else. And it's a serious set. Scott Quigg, this kid.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think this is a decent level fight. You know, the guy's only lost 1 fight early on in his career. As you said, he's the best fighter in that area, you know, which actually means something in them lighter weight divisions. But, you know, we need to move on to the most important thing here is Scott Quigg versus either Rigondeaux or Cole Frampton. Which
or Santa Cruz.
Or Santa Cruz, yeah. Can you give us a little bit of information on that, just for the fans? Let them know what actually happened with the Santa Cruz fight, first of all.
Well, the Santa Cruz fight, we've reached out numerous times, even when I was over at the Cal Brooks show. We spoke to Leo Santa Cruz himself, and he obviously got a bit of stick for fighting his old sparring partner, and he said after this fight, yeah, I'll definitely fight Scott Quigg, and we shook hands on it and everything else, but for whatever reason, that doesn't seem to have materialised. There isn't a card by the end of the year to put that type of fight on over there, and we were willing to go over there. So next year there's a Canelo versus possibly Cotto show in May. There's big talk of that, and that's something where we'd look to most probably fight Santa Cruz on in the card of that. There's Rigondeaux, and we're really considering possibly fighting Rigondeaux. Scott Quigg's in a no-win situation really. If he goes and fights Rigondeaux, beats him, people say Rigondeaux always passed it now, and then if Rigondeaux knocks Quigg out, they turn around and say, Quigg wasn't that good. The difference is when you go fighting Mayweather, you get paid well. You don't get that with Rigondeaux, but it's getting to the point now that, listen, we're ready to Scott Quigg. You got to remember, he had 12 amateur fights. Carl Frampton has had hundreds, Rigondeaux had hundreds, and the world good. Scott Quigg's still learning on the job, as they say. He's only had 42 fights in total, something along them lines. So he's learning as he goes, but the improvement that he had in the last couple of fights is knocking out good fighters within 2 or 3 rounds. The Spider, who beat Haskins and Power, no one expected Quigg. Boxing News had it points. Quigg blew him out in 2 rounds. Stephen Jamone, who pushed Jamie McDonnell close 12-18 months ago, the European title, Quigg blew out in 2 or 3 rounds. Now, all of a sudden, the bad fighters, well, hang on a minute, they weren't bad fighters when they were beating other kids, and I think that they're not really giving Scott Quigg enough credit for his punching power and his ability. But over time, listen, we'll prove that he's a real deal. And if he, I know Carl Frampton has to fight Chris Avalos next. There's no point talking about Carl Frampton until he's took care of Chris Avalos. So we're trying to get either the Santa Cruz or the Rigondeaux fight.
Right. So okay. So you actually want to take the Rigondeaux fight. So can you state this for the audience? Because a lot of media and fans, they believe that everybody, Santa Cruz, Frampton, and Quigg's camp, all truly believe that Rigondeux's not worth. He's too good, and he's not worth the risk for low money.
Well, it's not worth the risk. Rigondeaux, I see, is the number 2 pound fighter in the world, on the planet. I mean, no one to touch him, no one whatsoever. He's absolutely classed as an amateur, classed as a pro, and everything else. But sooner or later, like I said earlier, the fighters want to test themselves against the best, and Scott Quigg wants to test himself against the best, and that's Rigondeaux. So if that's the fight that has to happen, then Scott Quigg will fight Rigondeaux. As long as everything's right and there's enough money on the table, then that's it. Obviously, we're not going to fight him for £1, but there's got to be an amount of money that it's worth fighting him for. Everybody wants to fight Floyd Mayweather because they get a couple of £1 million out of it. If they weren't getting a couple of £1 million out of it, no one would fight Floyd Mayweather.
No. So if a half sensible offer come in tomorrow, just a decent amount, enough to tempt Scott to want to test himself, he would definitely 100% take that fight, no problem.
Listen, if there's an offer that came in that suited all parties involved, and that would be Matchroom, his opponent, Sky TV, Scott Quigg, it's an offer we would seriously consider, yes.
Of course. See, from my get with that, I couldn't see how Matchroom, Sky Sports, couldn't, as long as both parties, Quigg and Rigondeux's parties wanted to fight, couldn't make that a big event, couldn't make money out of it. Like I would say it would say a lot about them if they didn't at least get the fighters a decent purse and a pay-per-view card to match that. If they can make Bellew and Cleverly a pay-per-view card, they couldn't do that with Rigondeaux and stack the undercard with...
That's easier said than done. You've got bigger networks in America that are having problems selling Rigondeaux. Never mind Sky in the UK. And Rigondeux's fighting the big names over there, and Anita Benair and people like that, and it still isn't the big drawer or drawing the names in. For the boxing fans, we all know Rigondeaux is, but the man in the street isn't Rigondeaux. Where when you're talking about a Mayweather, I'd say most people in the man in the street would have heard of Mayweather. But obviously his fights with Ricky Hatton and Pacquiao and his profile with that was supposed to be fine. But Rigondeaux, nobody would know the difference if you asked them on the street between a Rigondeaux or an Ibeco. And that's the problem. So you've got Showtime, HBO, they have that problem. So it's all right saying, Sky would be able to sell it. Well, would they? Because who's Rigondeaux? So it has to be a big marketing sell. So there's more to them than just making a fight. For us boxing fans, it's great. We all know it and we all want to see it. But for the normal man in the street, they're used to knowing at the moment, the man in the street, I'd say, knows Cal Froch, knows David Hay, Audley Harrison, George Groves, and they're now beginning to know about Anthony Joshua, and they'd say that'd be it.
Right, yeah, I know, actually, I do get your point there, actually. So if I had to ask you, I've got 2 questions for you now before we wrap it up. We've got Big C has asked me to ask you, how, without giving too much away, how do you feel Quigg beats Frampton?
That fight can do 2 things. It can be the most boring fight on the planet because they're both technically very good fighters, and it'll be a game of chess, outsmarting each other, checkmate. I said it could be one of the most explosive fights on the night. I said that when they both go at it, both can hit very hard, both good fighters. Cal Frampton has a better amateur background, pedigree, but I just think Scott Quigg hits too hard, too often, and I just think Scott Quigg is a winner all day long, and I know Cal Frampton has his supporters, and that's what you do, but I'm very confident in my man in coming out the winner on that, and I don't think it's a harder fight as what people make out.
All right, so for the record now as well, this is the last question. Quigg Frampton, the reason, obviously, put the politics aside, there's obviously in a time frame there's certain reasons where politics dictate the fight hasn't happened, but when there's been good reason and good timing for the fight that should have been made, what's the reason for why it hasn't? Whose fault is it?
Well, I think the only time the fight could have been made was, let's say, around 2-3 years ago when it was British title level, and I think both kids could have fought back then, but they would have only got X amount of money. Whereas now, it's a pay-per-view event nearly for everyone in Ireland and everything else. It could happen. I think at the moment now with Carl, his world title, and it's a great achievement he's done that, he has to fight Avalos. But once I think he's took care of his, and Quigg, I think that fight can happen, and that fight I think should happen if we don't get a CRUZ or a RIGONDEUX by summer. I think it'll be Frampton in the summer next year, and I think that's a great fight that we're really looking forward to happening. And it isn't just a fight; it's an event.
Yeah, no, that would be great. That would definitely be pay-per-view. All the fans would love to see that, even across the pond. All the US fans want to see that fight. Right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think just touching that across the pond. When people say, "Oh, the Frampton and Quigg is great," but when you've been to America, in their world, boxing runs in their world. So we really want the Santa Cruz, because if we beat Carl Frampton, they would still say, "Yeah, but Santa Cruz is still the top dog," or RIGONDEUX. Understand? We're only the best in the UK. So if we beat Santa Cruz, then we're really taking that mantle as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, of course, yeah.
We've got to America, or a RIGONDEUX, so then we're over there in America, and you've made a name, and that's it. By beating Carl Frampton, it's great over here, but over there it's still not Santa Cruz and RIGONDEUX, the two top kids, so that's what we're having to deal with. So if we can either get a RIGONDEUX or a Santa Cruz in the meantime, while Carl, he's got to do with them, that's what we're trying to do, explore them avenues.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense, because you hear like some professional boxers and a lot of US fans, when Froch fighting Groves the second time, they were like, it's only a British level fight. That's
exactly.
that's craziness.
They were talking about Chavez and Froch. I'd love to see Chavez and Froch. That's a huge, massive fight. I don't think people, the UK don't realise how big that is over in America with the Mexicans and everything else. That's a huge fight. That's a global fight, that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what I do at the end of the interviews, what I do is I ask a few fight predictions. So a couple of fights that are going to be coming up, and then a fantasy fight. So I just got 4 questions for you, if that's all right. They're just you have to just say who wins. Right. So coming up, Eubank Jr., Billy Joe Saunders. Who wins?
Billy Joe Saunders.
All day long.
Skills.
Right. Okay. Tyson Fury versus Derek Chisora.
Tyson Fury.
Right. Then you've got Bernard Hopkins versus Kovalev at the weekend.
Oh, I think Hopkins playing mind games. I think if Kovalev is supposed to be as good as he is, Kovalev should win. If he isn't, then listen, what the division that is, Hopkins is an absolutely extreme example of a dedicated professional. And I really want Hopkins to win, but if Kovalev is the real deal, then I expect Kovalev to beat Bernard.
Right, okay. So then Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather, if they fight in 2015 in May, who wins?
Mayweather.
What about if they fought in their primes 5 years ago? Mayweather for you then. Okay then, well, thank you for coming on the phone today and speaking to us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. This is another UK Boxing Blogger Productions interview